afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Inspirational Influencer News, People Making a Difference. My name is Mary Sloan, and we are delighted to present this afternoon Debra C. Burton and Spirit and You. Debra has become a very, very good friend and someone who is simply magical in what she can do. That's my words, not her words. And I'm going to let her talk since that's who you came to see. And I really want to ask Debra just one simple question before we get started here. Debra, tell us how you got started doing the work that you do today. And then you can tell us what you do and who you help. But let's go back to the beginning. How did you get started?
Well, if you want to take it really far back, I could take it into past lifetimes, but we won't go that far.
Well, it might be interesting.
It's very interesting, that I can assure you, because one of my capacities is as a medium. However, I'll start in this incarnation. And one thing that sticks out in my mind is when I was a child and I shared a bedroom with my siblings. And at that particular time, it was dark and my siblings weren't in the bedroom. And just being there, I experienced a cocktail party around me. And the man was dressed in tails, and he had on gloves, and he had a silver tray, a silver tea set. And he approached, and I thought he was going to give me some tea. He walked right through me.
Ooh.
And I realized, okay, I'm on a different level here. So that was my very first recollection. Although my mother told me that I also did other things as a child. I had other experiences, different things like going to school and the trees would talk to me and the fairies and the pixies would wave to the flowers. So this is a little bit different, but this is really where it started. And so it's been my life. And as
did your
time
siblings
went,
have anything like this, or was it just you that had this, I'm going to say, mystical power?
are you saying other people in my family?
Yeah.
We all have a touch.
Okay.
So everyone has their own. Yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
my mother and my auntie were very spiritual, and I'm still in contact with them, although they're on the other side. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, that would be the start. I could go on for hours, so I'm just.
Well, I mean, it must have been an interesting experience for you to grow up with this power, or whatever you want to call it, that was different than a lot of the people around you were experiencing. What was that like for you?
I think I didn't even really pay it much of attention because it was just normal for me.
And your
You know,
friends didn't worry about it much?
I don't even know that I spoke much about it. Um, because it was just my world, like my bubble. And I don't even recall speaking much about it. Maybe to my mother, but I don't recall speaking so much about it, actually. Not as a child.
And you might want to keep your voice up. I'm just finding it a little hard to hear
Oh,
you, so I don't know if
thank
other
you.
listeners might, but please keep your voice up so that everybody can hear you clearly.
Thank you.
Anyway, so when did you decide that this would be your life's work, or you would use it for good as you went throughout your life?
I remember as a child making a promise to Spirit saying, you get them here and I'll help them stay here. So my idea was to be able to work with them for healing facilitation and and that kind of thing. And that has been the case. So even as a young girl, I was a Girl Scout. And so we were often looking for ways to raise money to support our events. And so I would tell fortunes at the fairs. And the old ladies would come to me, and then they'd run to my mother and say, she can do that. She's really true. She can really do that. And my mother would say, she's just a child. They said, no, but she really can do it. So
Whatever it was, eh?
whatever it was, they said, she can do it.
So you made lots of money and you were very popular as a Girl Scout because you could do something magical that they couldn't do and brought in money. Yay.
Well, our Girl Scout troop was very universal and very international. So we did travel with the monies we made, and we were very engaged, very active, and a wonderful group. The sweet ladies are on the other side now too. It's interesting that this is coming up because it was just mentioned that there was a memorial for them just the past days. So I think that must be, you know, a little sign from the other side. Yeah, I really get it. Thank you. Mwah, I love you.
So you have now made this your life's work.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that we'd love to hear what exactly that entails and what exactly you can do for people.
Mhm. Thank you. So what it entails is coming upon a kind of very deep, intense relaxation, and then going very deeply to transform and release the past, and getting consciously reconnected to the self, developing a conscious relationship with the self, finding out the will of the self and implementing it, looking at the life path for that particular human being, and really implementing, rolling up the sleeves, making sure that what is shown in the life path is in congruence, equivalence with what came out of the coaching and the training, and then to implement it. So not just get nice information, but be practical and implement. Mhm.
Okay, so so I think I need more examples because that sounds very okay, but I don't know how to do that.
No, that's why you got me.
Good.
we hold we hold the hands and we go together, and it's a very deep core sacred work. And for example, if someone has, okay, I'll give you some examples of people that I've worked with.
Perfect.
So there was one person, and she worked in media, television, and all of that, and she had bladder infections, and they were very, very severe. And she had them since she was a child. And she tried everything possible, and she ended up living on penicillin, which also didn't work. And so she came to me one day, May 14th, and that was some time ago. And since then, she's been without symptoms and without medication. I didn't tell her to stop taking her medication, but she said, why do I need to take it? I don't have any symptoms. And that's been for quite a long time. That's one example. Another example is I worked with a woman who is in management, and she was having challenges with her colleagues. And certain colleagues were really triggering her, such that she was fearful for her blood pressure and sleep nights. And we worked together, and then she could be with those people without any problem. She was just neutral. She wasn't triggered, she wasn't upset, she was just neutral, even for prolonged interaction with them. Totally neutral. And it had a ripple effect on her marriage, because before she was very picky about her husband. That all just went away. And she was just very tolerant. Well, I won't even say tolerant. She was allowing him to just be. And she said it improved the entire quality of her life. She couldn't even put a price on it. She said just the entire quality of her life, and she was very grateful. That's that's an example. I could even tell you another example. My guitarist. My guitarist had a tooth problem, and that was on a Sunday, and he was supposed to go to the dentist on the following Wednesday and have the tooth pulled. And I said, well, shall we look and see if we could help? So I said, okay. He sat down and we did a little something, and he stood up and he went to his appointment on that following Wednesday. And the dentist said, did you take antibiotics? He said, no. He said, well, you don't have anything. You can keep that tooth. So he kept the tooth. No problems.
All right. So you said something. You said, so we did a little something. So what is we did a little something?
Well, I work with frequencies and I work with spirit. So spirit does the work, and the spirit does the work, and we work together with the client. So I didn't touch him, but the frequencies were activated such that he could be restored to the proper frequency for that symptom.
So someone who experiences something, what I find fascinating is that it's not explicit as a toothache, or something wrong with your tooth. That's really interesting. But can someone then get in touch with their inner guidance or their inner spirit, or I'm not even sure of the words to use, but just can they then use that for other things going forward, or is it so specific that they wouldn't know how to use it afterwards?
So thank you for the question. And what I would say is, as we would work together, that conscious relationship with the self gets developed. So then they can have dialogues. So I'll give you an example of someone I worked with. We hadn't worked together for our program. I just saw him at a trade show because I was doing trade shows just throughout the country. And people were lining up at my chair, sometimes waiting 2 years to sit in my chair. So, and he happened to be one, and he wanted to find out about his biological dad. Now, you asked me if one can do it for themselves, but we hadn't gotten that far. So I did it for him. I connected with his biological dad, and he had no contact with the biological dad. And I don't always allow that, but I allowed myself to be the biological dad. So I was like, I hate you. And he was like, what? And he said, yeah, since you were on the planet, my wife has nothing to do with me. She always prefers you over me, because he was very much into spiritual things, and the dad was not so much into them. And he said, but I didn't do anything. I'm just me. I didn't try to influence it. He said, with all the other siblings, there was no problem. But with you, she spends a lot of time with you and has no time for me. And he was like, well, can I make it good? Please, I would like to find you again, because he had no contact with his dad. And he said, I want nothing to do with you. And I stepped back in then as Debra. I said, do you know, you've just got your freedom. You just got your liberation. You've been searching for this dad for so long, and you haven't been able to find him. And it was not the deal that he needed to play the role of dad. It was just to get you on the earth. But you had the projection that he had to play the role of dad. And that's why you went through this searching and the challenges and the pain and the disappointment and all of that. But you're freed of that. He stood up. I was like, click, he got it. And he smiled and he walked away. It's like he just walked his path. So I'll give you that example showing that, yes, it's possible. In this case, I hadn't worked with him yet, but the communication between the self and spirit, in my case, it was there because I've developed it, I've worked with it, and my clients can too. And I show them how to do that, show them how to work with their higher self, with spirit guides, with archangels, because we have, being humans, we have the capacity not only to have a physical expression, but a spiritual side. And this is really what is magnificent about being a human being. Most people just function on a physical side. But the spirit doesn't have a physical body. When you combine them together, you've got a team, because the physical can implement what the spirit can see of. So that's really dynamic. Did that answer your question?
Sure. And so for that fellow who had been seeking his dad, but not for the biological purposes, but because he thought, my words, he needed a father figure. Was he free of that, or did he feel the loss of a father figure?
No, he was just neutralized in terms of that negative emotion. He was just free. It was like grew up. It's like he became a man and could go his path.
And did you see him again for anything else, or
I saw him from time to time at other trade fairs, and he would come over and say hi, and he was great.
But that was all he just needed to be free of his longing for a father that wasn't to be.
Yeah. It gave him a growth spurt. It's like it got filled in. He realized the search was for nothing, and that wasn't the deal. It wasn't the deal for him to have that father figure like he projected. And so he could just let that be. And he could just then go his way, being himself, and go his path.
That raises some interesting questions in my mind, and it has nothing to do with spirituality, I don't think. But how many of us suffer for things that we think we ought to have. Like, I should have this kind of a relationship with my mother, or I should have that kind of relationship with my husband. And maybe we can't be comfortable with the relationship we have because we're always longing for a different sort of relationship.
And this we look at, Mary, we look at the partnership, if there is one there. We look to see what is the purpose of that partnership, so that one can get beyond the projection and see what's so. Like, I liken it to a pot of soup. So some people like pea soup, some people like carrot soup, and some people happen to have carrot soup, but they want pea soup. So the question is, well, can you deal with the carrot soup being carrot soup without peas? Or do you need to throw some peas in the pot? Is that going to be enough for you? If not, then you might need to go and get pea soup. Or you might be able to, you might need to just be comfortable adding some peas to the carrot soup. But we can really look and see, what's the purpose of that relationship? Is that your life partner or just a phase partner? How does that one feel about the other person, and vice versa? What is each one being required to learn in the relationship, to demonstrate? Where is the relationship going over the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year? does each person really want to be in the relationship? There was one client, and I worked with her. I was giving her leadership training through the local Chamber of Commerce. And she wanted to ask, well, can you tell me also about my relationship? I said, do you really want to know? She said, yeah. I said, well, that's not the one. And she was like, oh, no. I said, no, it's not the one. And you're going to have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem with high probability. Nothing's cast in stone. And she noted everything down, and it'll last about this long. I told her very exactly. And she said, oh, okay. She called me back about to the day and said, Debra, you were right. Every time we had an argument, I looked in my notes and there it was. And it only lasted about to that day that you said. And now that's gone, and now I'm with my rightful partner, and we have our child together. So she's a happy camper.
Wow, you must be very popular with the people who are kind of thinking about or going through or have been through divorce, to give them some relief from all their thoughts of what might have, would have, could have, should have been, when maybe it wasn't that meant to be that at all.
That's really good, because you get to see reality. There was one woman who had been married for 30 years, and I had coached her. So I had some idea of who she is. And she said, well, Debra, could you tell me about my marriage? I said, do you really want to know? And she said, yes. And I said, well, if you don't straighten things out, you're going to have drama in the house. And she was like, I don't hear that. Click. But I knew that that wasn't the true substance that I had worked with. It was that little ego packaging that we had gotten into a corner and gotten it to be quiet. And it was raising its head to test her. And I told her straight out, I called back, although she said, never call me again. I called back because I knew I wasn't talking to the real her. I said, I know you told me not to call back, but I stand for the self. And I'm standing up for yourself. So I'm telling you how I see the things. Your little ego is really trying to get the last effort because it knows that it's losing grip on you, and yourself is starting to be restored to its rightful throne. And she said, I understand. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to call me back, even though I told you never to call me again. Because that was really the key. And now her marriage is fine.
Oh, wow. So you were telling me, Debra, and I know our time, oh gosh, time goes by so fast, it's terrible. But in any event, I really want you to tell our listeners the story of the lady who was trying to have children, because to me, people who want children and are struggling to have children, such a hardship in their lives. And they go through so much expense. I mean, all these, reproductive clinics and fertility clinics, and test this and test that. I have some understanding because I had my son and his wife, lost a baby, and then they went through test after test after test, and this and that, and here and there, all to see what was wrong, that the baby had been lost. And it was lost because it was going to be born without a brain, and so they had to make sure that the baby wasn't born, or that she didn't carry it. And it was very sad and very traumatic. But I'm just like, holy smokes, to have had the ability to have some freedom from that would have been amazing.
Oh, I understand you. Sometimes, yes, this one woman that I worked with, she had tried for about 5 years to get pregnant, and nothing worked. And she was also just early 40s and hadn't had children before. And then with our work, she got 2 wonderful twins, healthy, totally full size, no incubator, no illness, robust, happy children. And she was also very healthy and worked up till the last moment. And people were saying, "Go home! Don't you realize you're pregnant? You could be dropping any moment, you know." And so, and I also remember there was a lady, and she couldn't get pregnant. And sometimes the it's not about the baby or the physicality. Sometimes the partnership is not intact. And the child's soul does not want to enter into that arena where the things are not straightened out. So because the child chooses the parents for the scenarios and the situations and the constellations that would be provided by being in that family. And if it sees that it's going to have a lot of struggles and that's not part of their path of learning, then it might not happen, or it might be delayed for some other time.
Well, Deborah, I'm really upset that our time has come to an end, and I really want to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can get hold of you and get more of your wonderful wisdom or bring it into their lives in any way that they would like. And I'm just so grateful that you're in my world and we're friends.
The feeling is mutual, Mary. Thank you kindly. Really.
But thank you. And please let our listeners know how they can get more of you.
Thank you very much. One way would be to just write me an email, the old-fashioned way, at Soul Activa. That's SOULACTIVA at gmail.com. Soulactiva@gmail.com would be one way, or you can catch me on LinkedIn under Soul Activa, or Facebook. Join my Facebook page under soulactiva.com, and I will gladly respond to you and set up with you if you're open. I would offer you a complimentary session of an hour to work intensely together to see what you really would like to accomplish, what you would really like, for example, in a partnership, and to see where you are in that area currently and what's stopping you or blocking you, and then to come up with a plan to see what the next steps might be. There you could reach out to me on my Calendly link, but start with the gmail.com if you need to. I don't know, would the Calendly link be listed below?
Well, I mean, we can go in, we could certainly put some, we can both go find the event, or you can go find the event and put some information in around it in LinkedIn and maybe on Facebook. And certainly you can get it to me. I can put it up on my YouTube channel. But I'm thinking also that people can look up your name, Debra C. Burton, and find you on LinkedIn or on
Absolutely.
Facebook, or
Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be my YouTube channel. I have no idea if you have one or not.
I do, but it's under debracburton.com.
Anyway, debracburton.com ought to get hold of you, and people can go from there. And I really want to thank you very much for a delightful, delightful hour. And if anyone in our listening audience would like to be interviewed on this show, I am definitely looking for people who are making a difference, like Debra C. Burton. Mm-hmm. And you can reach out to me or get on my calendar by going to getonmyshow.com. So you can go to getonmyshow.com and let's have a conversation. And maybe you too will have a chance to go live and go across all these different channels. I mean, technology to me is magical. Imagine being able to stream live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and do it all from the comfort of our Zoom room. And haven't we all become Zoomers? So anyway, thank you so much, Deborah. I really appreciate your time. And I appreciate that of everyone here who's been listening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mary. I wish you blessings to all the listeners.